Hey everybody, welcome to Plumbing with Tim. Today I'm just going to take a few moments and show you the best practices when it comes to troubleshooting a water heater that won't get hot. Now it's a no-brainer. Anytime you're going to be working on a water heater, always make sure that you turn the power off at the breaker and you have a multimeter to make sure you're not going to get your pants shocked off you. Now, real quick, a disclaimer. I am not and never will claim to be an electrician, but being a plumber and having to work on water heaters, garbage disposals, and dishwashers and stuff like that, I have to at least know how to read a multimeter enough to troubleshoot and know whether I'm working with hot current or no current at all. Now, any real plumber is going to always tell you that one of the most important tools inside of his toolbox is a multimeter. Whether it be a digital one or like I have here, an analog one will work just fine. Owning one and knowing how to operate and read one of these are two different things. If you're really not sure on how to read a multimeter, go on YouTube or ask an electrician friend or stuff like that if they can take a couple minutes and just give you the basics of what you need to know on how to operate one of these things, read them properly, and be able to troubleshoot things such as water heaters. Now, outside of having an under the slab hot water leak that could cause all the hot water in your tank to be running out into the ground, you don't know about it, causing your water heater not to really heat up, there's only a few things that are inside of your water heater that is the results of obtaining the hot water or not having hot water at all. And I'm going to show you. You go to a customer's house and said, I just don't have any hot water. First thing you're going to want to do is go to the breaker board and see if the breaker is tripped off. Now, a breaker is going to trip itself off if there's a few problems. Either there's something touching like two wires, or if it's a weak breaker or something like that. But always kick that breaker off before you decide to get your fingers inside of any of those components in a water heater. You get the breaker turned off and everything, you want to go to your multimeter, you go to alternating current, and most hot water heaters, unless it's a small one, are going to run off at 240 volts. So I'm going to click my meter over to the 250 volt section right there. All right, now that we know that our power is off, we're going to disconnect the wires inside the top compartment or side compartment that has the wire nuts where the water heater is receiving its power and voltage from the meter, and disconnect that from the water heater and take our two little test leads, and we're going to test and find out if we have the correct amount of current coming in from the breaker box first. That is the first thing that you want to check, because if it's a 240 volt system we're working with and you're only getting 120, that means half that breaker is bad. That's the first thing that you want to check. Placement, thermostat and element kit. These are used. I took the old ones out of a heater, so these are used ones that are in here. They run right about $50 or whatever. Let me show you the other things you need to check for. I'm making sure that your breaker is off at the panel and there's no power coming into the water heater. We've already found out that we do have the proper amount of voltage coming into the water heater. Go ahead and disconnect the power again. Open up your side panel where you find your elements and stuff. Disconnect your two wires that are going into your top element. You're going to take your multimeter at this point, and somewhere on that multimeter, you're going to end up seeing a little symbol that looks like ohms, like a set of headphones. That is continuity. We want to find out at this point on your element if it's a complete circuit and there's no breaks in it, which would cause it not to heat up. While having this set in the continuity settings down here, we're going to take our two test leads, the wires disconnected from here, no power, no wires on there, and we're going to test to find out if this has a complete circuit inside. So I'm doing that just like that. Just like that. Now, if you have a multimeter that has sound to it, it should go beep, or in this case, you're going to see the needle go up. If that's the case, that means continuity is good. Chances are pretty good that that element isn't bad. So we rule that out. Most hot water heaters that are 240 volt have an upper thermostat and a lower thermostat. Okay. There are ways of testing this. We're not going to get into it, but I can tell you right now, if you have any questions about these, it's just as easy just to go ahead and replace these, get them out of the way, and replace and put new ones in here. Let me show you how this thing actually works. Sometimes you might get lucky, and maybe there was a power surge or something. You have a little reset button right there. Sometimes those get popped. You can simply just push them, and it will kick that back on, and it will restore your hot water. These thermostats, this being the upper thermostat, we already talked about the reset button. That's an obvious. You got a little temperature gauge right there. Don't go messing with this thing and turning it way up. I don't care if you want more hot water. Someone's going to end up getting scalded, and on top of that, the lifespan of your water heater is going to go way down. We're going to flip that thermostat over. See these two little round areas? These are the sensors. So when this thing gets mounted inside a water heater, take a look. See your little dog ear clips and stuff? Inside the water heater, there's two little prongs that this thing's going to sit down on. If you bend those prongs back on the inside of that water heater panel and try to slide that thing in, this thing is designed to sit flush to the inner shell of your water heater. That's what senses how hot the water in the heater is to turn it on or turn it off. If you bend those clips and the thing gets mounted in there and it's not flush up against that tank liner, you're not getting the proper reading, and you're not going to get the desired hot water you're looking for. So, wrapping things up, between your upper and lower thermostats and your elements, upper and lower elements, these are the only things electrical that are working inside of that water heater. So A, let's review. We need to find out, make sure we got the proper amount of voltage that is rated for the water heater. Most 40 gallons or whatever are rated for 240 volt. That's coming from the breaker box. If you're not getting the proper amount of power that's coming with the breaker box, right there's your problem. You stop what you're doing and you have them call an electrician to get that breaker fixed. That you're going to end up getting. Learn how to read these. There's lots of tutorials and stuff that are on YouTube, and most of the time in the trade business, you'll be able to find an electrician that'll be happy enough to sit down and show you the basics on how to work one of these. A must-have if you're going to do a plumbing job, especially working on a water heater. Next of all, we talked about the continuity and how to read the continuity. Make sure you have a complete circuit on these elements. You can do that without pulling the elements out with a good multimeter. Lastly, the upper and lower thermostats. These are the last little bits of things that are electrical inside of your water heater. We talked about the reset button. We talked about not turning this gauge up too high, as well as the sensors mounting flat and flush against the inside of the heater liner. If not, you're not going to get a proper reading from either one of those. That's all the time I've got for this one. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you got any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thanks for all the support in this community. Don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, this has been Plumbing with Tim. Keep plumbing.